This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears, with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for April 1st, 2025. This is season 14, episode number 55, and this is episode number 494 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Bob Howard, and yes, indeed, it is April 1st, and you're getting another edition of the Power Play Post Show. We just released one on Sunday, and now it's Tuesday, and we're releasing another one, and part of that is because of the schedule. Yes, the Black Bears are playing on Wednesday and Thursday down in Athens, and then they have the weekend off, right? And they'll have the weekend off, and then they'll have a full week leading up to the final two games of the regular season. So right now they're going to be playing, their last four games here over the next 10 days or so. But the Binghamton Black Bears are flying down to Athens, Georgia to play against the Athens Rock Lobsters. And I've got to be honest with you, this is going to be a very interesting two games. I'm looking forward to these games. I think the players, head coach Brant Sherwood is looking forward to these games just because they are definitely a team that is built around former players from the SPHL, the ECHL, few rookies. Couple rookies doing really well, but that could be because of their environment. They're playing with good players. The Black Bears are also built to win as well. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Now, there's some numbers that I think really stand out here. The Black Bears score 5.1 goals per game. The Rock Lobsters only 4 goals per game. So there's a goal difference there, which is interesting. However, the Rock Lobsters also allow in less goals than the Black Bears have this season as well. So that's very interesting. It's 133 to 125. It's close. It's like 2.6 versus 2.4, but still a little bit less. I think the Black Bears are going to be fine. They're going to go down there. They're going to see where they stand. Athens is going to see where they stand. It'll be very interesting. This is not an April Fool's joke. You are listening to the Power Play Post Show here on Tuesday, on April 1st. And man, the season has gone by quick, right? Would you not agree? I mean, we're talking about April 1st hockey here. Black Bears will play on April 2nd, but we're talking hockey here on April 1st already. And it's very interesting to see the fact that the Black Bears are already, they've only got 4 games left, right? They're playing 53, 54, 55, 56, and that's it. And then they go into the playoffs, and that's a whole new season. I don't care how short the playoffs are in the Fed. It is a different season, just like in every level of hockey. It gets ramped up. Players play just a little bit harder because they know they have a chance to raise a cup. And it doesn't matter what cup it is. Players will play to win a championship. It's that simple. They'll get a ring or they'll get a banner or whatever it might be that really kind of gooses them up. I remember last year, and this was the interesting thing, as I was talking to some of these players after or just before the end of the season, right? And I was asking them all the same question. What is the goal of the season? To win a championship, to put a banner up. Some guys actually said to put a banner up in the arena. They wanted to see a new banner. They wanted to see a Black Bears banner go up there, right? And they got that. They got 2 of them, right? They got the Empire Division banner, which obviously now the Black Bears can put that up there as well. Another one saying that they won the division or maybe even the regular season championship, right? Because nobody can beat them at this point. So the Black Bears, can put up another banner. That's pretty cool. Some guys, they really want the ring, right? I mean, I got to be honest with you. Connor Smith looked really good with that. Adrian ring and that Binghamton Black Bears ring on when I saw him at the banner raising ceremony. And I said, man, those are beautiful, because they were beautiful right next to each other. The Adrian one was gold, and the Black Bears one was more of the chrome style. It was great. So, yeah, the 2 games left, folks. I wonder how everybody's handling that, right? Because it's an emotional thing. And a lot of the fans that really get involved in hockey, there is the same but different kind of emotions that they have versus someone who works for the team or someone who plays on the ice. But there's a lot of emotions that go into hockey. Hockey, I think, is one of the most emotional sports out there. Whether you're a fan, a head coach, a player, maybe you're the person that works in the office, because it's just very emotional. Fans get so attached to players, and then players leave, and fans get emotional about that. Players get emotional on the ice. They create these bonds in the locker room that just sometimes have a hard time getting broken unless somebody is a cancer. But luckily, that's one of the great things about Brant Sherwood is he's looking for guys who are good, quality character guys to be in the locker room. But emotions just kind of are there for everybody. It doesn't matter. I mean, even I have emotions. Just watch me in the press box sometimes, and I'm watching the game, and I'm like getting fired up or something. It happens to everybody. It's just the way it is. But we're close. We're close to the end of the regular season. And I'm just kind of curious on how you, the fans, are feeling about that. Of course, Power Play Post Show is going to be here until the end of the playoffs, however that ends for the Black Bears. Hopefully another celebration maybe at the arena and raising a cup. That would be great. But we're going to be here for you guys. We're going to be here to make sure that we provide you the best coverage we can of the Black Bears, and probably the best coverage any Fed team gets, with interviews and all the things that we're doing. Taylor Welch writing her impact player reports after each game, which we're going to do right through the playoffs as well. And she's doing a great job, and I love the fact that we're getting a lot of good reaction from you, the fans. And the best way you guys can really help us know that we're doing something good, like it, love it, share it, however you want to do it. Show us your love. Your comments, we appreciate them. We read every single one of them. I try to like or love every single comment that you guys leave on any of our posts. So keep that up. We really appreciate that. And if you're not a part of the Power Play Post Show Facebook group, it's not just a fan group. It's not just fans. It's people who are wanting the media credentialed attention that the Black Bears deserve. And trust me, Tommy Turgan, he does a great job. Bruce, at 34, does a great job. Zach Grady does the best he can. Those guys have to cover 15,000 other things than what we do. So they can't always give that important, what I like to call it, the old print media guy, right? When the newspapers were the main form of media, and some of my older listeners are going to understand what I'm talking about, you could grab the newspaper, open it up, and go, oh man, they're talking about the Binghamton Rangers here or the Binghamton Whalers, and there's an article here, and then there's another article, and then the next day there's still an article, right? Every single day there's an article, or there's some sort of news that you could open up the paper and go, oh, okay, the Hartford Whalers signed this guy, and he's going to come down, Peter Sidorkovitz. Oh, who's this guy? And they're gonna and they send him down, and they're talking about that in the newspaper. That's the kind of attention we're trying to give here at the Power Play Post Show and in that group. So the group is really less a fan page, but more of a way for us to share information about the team, about the Black Bears, about my conversations with sometimes Coach Sherwood, or just kind of really giving you all the information that we can, like we do here on the show. So that's why it's there. When I write up my day after game reports, it's about perspective. It's about giving you guys the information that we can in the best way we can. And if some people think that we're biased because we are on the side of the Black Bears, well, guess what? My listenership and my readership, they're Black Bears fans. The majority of them are. But I think I'm pretty fair when it comes to the way I cover other teams as well, and bringing on guests every once in a while. And, maybe that'll be something that I do after this weekend's, these 2 weeks games, bring on a couple more people from outside of the Black Bears, because the Black Bears are going to take some time off, right? They're going to take a few days off after they travel back from Athens. But we really appreciate when you guys like, love, share all of our content. It helps us grow. It's going to make this bigger and better. And we're going to continue to try to go. I'm going to try to incorporate Taylor more into some other things as well in the future as she and I continue to communicate and talk about hockey even more and continue to do, obviously, the impact players. So I just wanted to start off with that. Happy April Fool's Day. I'm sure everyone's going to probably get picked on a little bit. I'm sure some of the players are going to, practical jokes on each other just a little bit. But it was, if there's anything that was almost an April Fool's kind of joke, was maybe Dan Weber's answer to the zombie apocalypse. He wants Bill Nye the Science Guy there with him in a hockey arena during the zombie apocalypse. I'm not sure if that was the best answer, but man, it made me smile. And it was interesting, and it got a reaction from some of the fans who have listened to the show. So, pretty cool. All right, let's move on. The Power Play Post is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. I just talked about it. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, Binghamton Black Bears intern assistant coach does a lot of video for them, and head coach of the club ice hockey team at Elmira College is Mason Esworthy. Great being able to talk to Mason and have him on the show. He's going to be the new head coach of the ice hockey team, the club team in Elmira, where if you think about it, Elmira is really growing as a developmental area for hockey, which is pretty cool. They've got a Division III men's and women's team. They've got now the club hockey team. They've got three versions or three junior teams, basically, that are now within that city. And they really are developing players to go play pro hockey, which is pretty cool. So we'll talk to Mason in just a few minutes. The Binghamton Black Bears will play Wednesday and Thursday, as we've talked about already a lot, in Athens, Georgia versus the Athens Rock Lobsters. This is the first ever meeting between the Black Bears and the Rock Lobsters. The Rock Lobsters will not play in the regular season in Binghamton at the arena. These two games are the only two games this season, obviously with only 4 games left. So maybe next year there will be 2 games down there and 2 games up here. We'll have to see how the FPHL schedule works things out. The Rock Lobsters, after their 9-3 win now on Sunday, now sit on top of the Continental Division standings and have a record of 41-8-3 with 115 points. The Black Bears have a record of 46-5-1 with 134 points. So why is there such a difference between the points there? 134 if we've got 46 points, and they've got 41 wins but only 115 points. Well, here's the big difference. And the wins for both teams are the 41 regulation wins for the Black Bears versus the 30 regulation wins for the Rock Lobsters. You can argue that the Black Bears haven't needed a lot of OT to win games, and then you can argue that the Rock Lobsters are dangerous in overtime. They're able to close things out in overtime when they can't do it in regulation. So you can argue it one way or another. Listen, when you get into the playoffs, what it really comes down to is can you win in overtime? And the Rock Lobsters, we can argue that they certainly can because they've already done it a lot. Now, the Black Bears have only seen, this is the key point here, they've only seen 6 games go into overtime. They've won things in regulation. They like to finish business within 60 minutes. They're not playing any of that extra hockey there for you all that much. So we'll see what happens this weekend on a team that wins well in overtime and a team who just doesn't like to go to overtime. And it's not like the Binghamton Black Bears have lost a lot in regulation, only 5 games. The Black Bears are on a 7-game winning streak and just completed 2 wins this past weekend with 2 wins over Danbury in a home-and-home series. We've obviously already chronicled that. Friday night, the Black Bears won 6-3 at home in front of a sellout crowd. And on Saturday night, the Black Bears won 5-2 in Danbury on their Ring of Honor night. The Rock Lobsters are on a 3-game winning streak and just completed 3 games in 3 nights, a sweep of the Baton Rouge Zydeco. Friday night in Athens was a 4-3 win for the Rock Lobsters. Saturday night, also in Athens, was a 4-0 shutout win over the Zydeco. And then on Sunday night, as we already said, was a 9-3 shell-shacking on the 3rd night in 3 days. So the Rock Lobsters played on Sunday. They'll have Monday and Tuesday off, and then they'll have Binghamton coming in for 2 games. Now, positive for the Rock Lobsters, obviously, they were home all weekend. So it's just they need a couple days to kind of rest up. My guess is they probably did the same thing the Black Bears did. They took Monday off, maybe practiced on Tuesday. Well, the Black Bears took Sunday off, practiced on Monday, traveling on Tuesday. My guess is the Rock Lobsters off on Monday. Probably everybody's getting together at the arena, doing some sort of workout, some sort of run through to make sure that they're ready for the Black Bears. Because you can watch some video, you can probably have 45 minutes on the ice, something to that effect. Now, the Rock Lobsters are led by, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, go in depth on some of these guys in just a little bit. The Rock Lobsters are led by Garrett Milan, 35 goals, 62 assists for 97 points. He's going to hit 100 points this season. We haven't had a lot of guys hit 100 points in the last few seasons, but Garrett Milan is definitely going to do that. 8 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 6 game-winning goals for Garrett Milan. He's a big part of their success. Carter Shinkurik, also 14 goals, 60 assists for him for 74 points, 6 power play goals, and 6 game-winning goals. Philip Virgil, 27 goals, 37 assists for 64 points, 10 power play goals. He's also got 2 shorthanded goals and 6 game-winning goals himself. Casey Gallant, who I think is the rookie out of these 4, 35 goals, 25 assists for 60 points, and he has 15 power play goals. He is really good on the power play. But if you think about it, Milan has 8 power play goals. Virgil has 10 power play goals. Gallant has 15 power play goals on these guys that we're highlighting here. And Gallant also has 6 game-winning goals. So right there with those 4 guys, there's 24 of your wins from goals from these guys right here. Josh Rosenvig is 27-1 with a 2.22 goals against average and a 9.26 save percentage. He's a major junior hockey player, okay? And that's something that we'll talk about in just a little bit. There's some serious credentials of some of these guys from the Rock Lobsters. And you're going to see, I think what you're going to see is these 2 games, you're going to see where a team led by Kyle Steffen, who is a D1 player, okay, and a bunch of D3 guys going against a couple major junior guys, some D3 guys, a D1 guy as well, right? You're going to see a clash, and you're going to see that the skill level between not the top end D1 guys, but maybe middle to low end D1 guys and D3 guys is a lot closer than people think. And I hope people understand what I'm trying to say there, is that there are some D3 players that are probably good enough to play a little bit of a higher level of hockey, whereas D1, there's some low-end D1 guys that are a lot closer to the talent level of a D3 guy. And as I've said multiple times with Kyle Steffen, when you watch him on the ice, his edges, the way he skates, the decision makings that he makes are above and beyond what other people do on the ice. I think that you're going to see some of that with the Athens Rock Lobsters as well. Now, the Black Bears, as we all know, are led by Tyson Kirkby. He's got 33 goals, 53 assists, 86 points. I think if he would have played, the full season, because obviously he was out for some games because of suspension and, of course, call-ups, I think he would have hit 100 points. Now, there's 4 games left, and he needs 14 points. That's 3.5 points per game, per se, we'll say. I don't think he's going to do that. But in 42 games played, he's done very well for himself, right? He's a 2-point game per guy. He gets 2 points per game, basically, when he's out there. He's got 10 power play goals, 4 shorthanded goals, and 4 game-winning goals. Austin Thompson, 33 goals, 32 assists, 65 points in 51 games played, 4 power play goals, 4 shorthanded goals, 9 game-winning goals. One of the things you're going to find about both of these teams, a lot of the guys on the teams do a little bit of everything, and they do a little bit of everything really good. CJ Stubbs, 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points in 40 games played, 7 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 4 game-winning goals. Dakota Bond, best defenseman in the league, 16 goals, 43 assists, 59 points, 47 games played. I think he started off a little slow. I think his numbers would be a little bit better if he started off a little bit quicker in the season. 8 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 5 game-winning goals. Now, Connor McAnanima, 29-2-1. We're going to see him at least one of these 2 games for sure. He's got a 2.02 goals against average and a .924 save percentage. The Black Bears score 5.1 goals per game, where the Rock Lobsters score 4 per game. That's 1.1 goals more. So the Black Bears do score a little bit more. Now, the Black Bears allow 2.6 goals per game, where the Rock Lobsters only allow 2.4 per game. That is almost statistically a tie, okay? It's very, very close. But obviously the Rock Lobsters only giving up 125 goals this season, and the Black Bears 133 through the same amount of games played, 52. That's why that number is so close, okay? Eight goals is not that much when you average it out throughout the year, okay? Specialty teams. Binghamton is considerably one of the best in all specialty teams, right? But Athens does have their high points as well. Binghamton on the power play ranked second right now because they dipped a little bit behind the Watertown Wolves percentage-wise, right? So they're ranked second, but they're number 1 in goals scored with 64 power play goals for 25%. On the PK, they're ranked third with 34 power play goals allowed and an 86% kill rate. Now, also at the same time, they have the most shorthanded goals, so they're kind of deadly both on the power play and on the penalty kill. They have 15 shorthanded goals. Athens power play is ranked 7th, okay? 51 power play goals, which is pretty good, right? It's about 13 behind the Black Bears. They convert 21% of the time, okay? Their PK is ranked number 1, and they've only allowed 25 power play goals against, okay? And that's an 88% kill rate. And honestly, there's no one even close to them right now when it comes to allowing the least amount of power play goals or goals while they're on the penalty kill. So we're talking about the number 1 penalty kill against arguably the number 1 power play. Okay, Rock Lobsters playing creds, right? Let's talk about this for a little bit. Everybody knows about CJ Stubbs and his time in the SPHL. Don Oliveri played 89 games now in the ECHL. But the Rock Lobsters aren't built that differently, okay? They do have some cred to them. Garrett Milan has 25 ECHL games, 200 SPHL games, and played D1 with St. Cloud State, which is Dan Weber's favorite college hockey team for a D1 school. So Garrett Milan has played D1 hockey, okay? 200 SPHL games and 25 ECHL games. Carter Shinkarik, 26 ECHL games, 100 SPHL games. So he's got some seriousness to him as well. Philip Virgil, 1 ECHL game, but 100 SPHL games. Malik Johnson, 6 ECHL games, 100 SPHL games. And Orca Weisblatt. And yes, Weisblatt has a brother who plays in the NHL. Played major junior with the WHL's Calgary Hitmen for 4 seasons. So the kid has some skill. And you're going to see that if he plays with Athens. Joey Caltarosi, D3 with Adrian for 4 seasons, 85 games in the ECHL, and almost as many games in the SPHL as well. And then Josh Rosenwig, most people know this, 2 seasons with the OHL's Niagara Ice Dogs. That's major junior hockey right there. So the Rock Lobsters have some serious playing creds from guys who played some major junior or D1 hockey, or they've played in SPHL for 100-plus games, and they've got some ECHL guy experience as well. Now, none of their guys played in the ECHL as long as Don Oliveri has, but they definitely have some of that experience, and I think that is going to matter. That's why I think these 2 games are going to be fun, exciting, interesting to watch. I hate the fact that they're on a Wednesday and a Thursday, but it is what it is. Hopefully there's a decent crowd for both of those games in Athens. I'd like to see that building as I'm watching a game to get a good feeling of how that crowd is. I know they had a sellout this past weekend. The Rock Lobsters did. Obviously, Binghamton did as well. 48-93 versus, I think, 57-15 for the sellout for the Rock Lobsters, or for the Athens Ackensford Arena. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of attendance they get. I expect probably about 3,000 fans will show up. So that's basically it. All right. I hope everybody enjoys these games against Athens. It could be the team we meet in the finals if we make it to the finals. If the Black Bears make it to the finals, this could be the team we face. It's either them, Carolina, and maybe the dark horse could be someone like Columbus. Maybe. We'll see. All right. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, he is Mason Esworthy. Again, assistant coach to help out Brant Sherwood this season with the Binghamton Black Bears, and now the new hockey club head coach for Elmira College. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers. Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Very intriguing guest I have here now. This is somebody that's a part of the Binghamton Black Bears organization, but is also cutting his own path in the world of coaching now in hockey, and I'm very excited to be able to get to talk to him. He has worked for the Black Bears this season as their video coordinator, pulling and cutting video for the players and for Coach Sherwood to go over with the players. He's been behind the bench a little bit, and he's even kind of done some of the same stuff for the Roanoke Rail Yard Dawgs. So I'm very excited to have him here, and he's also going to be the new club head coach of the Elmira College Club team as well, starting next year, and he's already recruiting players, which is very cool. He is Mason Esworthy. Mason, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. I hope I nailed the highlights right there of what you've been doing. Oh, and also a member of Elon University, their team as well. You have a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, Bob. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, like you said. I mean, really, between the Dogs, the Black Bears, and then on the tail end of my Elon career, trying to help the new guys, the new presidents come in and learn what they have to do between the school and the league. But then that, and now Elmira, I've got my plate full as well. 5 more weeks of college left for me, so trying to keep those grades up best I can while balancing all 5 of those things, really.
Well, you're still an athlete, so grades, come on. But grades are important, and as you've obviously talked to Brant Sherwood a lot over the last 8 months, academics, he's always said that when guys are coming to his team and they're still in college, he wants them to make sure that they are taking care of their academics. It's obviously very important. Let's start from the beginning. You're from Salem, Virginia, which is just kind of west, part of the probably the metropolis of Roanoke, which has always had really kind of like a hockey presence. Talk a little bit about Salem and what it's like.
Yeah, so Salem's a nice little community, like you said, just west of downtown Roanoke. So it's a college town, very small college town, Roanoke College, Division III school. And so that's kind of where, I guess, my journey and my family start. My mom's from Roanoke, grew up, born and raised there. Mm-hmm. And then my dad's actually from Hershey, Pennsylvania, and moved down to originally play college soccer at Roanoke College and ended up playing on their club team. Stayed around town, fell in love with the area like so many people do. And then my hockey journey really started when I was 3 years old, my first time on skates.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it then. My dad, I've been lucky enough for him to have been my coach for 15 years, from when I was 3 until I was 18. And I think Roanoke's awesome. Like you said, it's been a hockey town really forever. A fun fact is actually that the ECHL was founded in Roanoke.
Yeah.
And, we've had teams from not really all leagues, but the ECHL predominantly. We've had teams in Salem, Roanoke, Vinton, which is where one of our rinks is now. And now we've had the Dogs in the SPHL for, 7 or 8 years now. So
I want to go back to something that you said. Your dad played soccer. Okay, he's from Hershey, but he played soccer, which is just, okay, that's fine. Hershey guy playing soccer, not playing hockey. Did he skate? You said he was your coach for a while too, right? So he obviously is somebody who has played hockey and been on skates before. Yeah,
so my dad, growing up, was a pretty high-level hockey player out of Hershey and Lancaster. He'll tell me all the stories, but he said he was so good that one time he scored a hat trick on Mike Richter when they were, I think, 12 years old or something. So he's been playing hockey forever. And unfortunately, after his soccer career ended due to an injury, that's when I think he got more involved in hockey as a whole. Became a pretty big member of Rail Yard College's club team. And then from that, even before I was born, he got involved in youth hockey in Roanoke and the adult leagues there as well.
So what was it like to have your dad coach you? I mean, I know for some people it's like, I like being around my dad or I like being around my family, but, there's a lot of pressure there on both sides, right?
Yeah, he handled it really well. I mean, he's unbiasedly was probably the best coach I've ever had in any sport at any level. But, I mean, his assistant coaches were also fabulous. And as much as he ran the team and he ran the locker room, they did their fair share as well. And he had 3 assistant coaches for literally all 15 years, the exact same group. So I was lucky enough to have those guys as well where, if I felt like I didn't want to be the coach's son, I was able to go to those guys and talk to them. And I think that a lot of other people felt that way as well. But it was definitely difficult, especially, when I got to be 14 years old. I guess it would have been my 14th year. That's when we first started actually doing captains. And I was lucky enough to be voted captain multiple years. So trying to have that balance between dad, coach, but also almost like coworker. And that was definitely something difficult, but I mean, he handled it excellent and it definitely taught me a lot.
Tell me a little bit about youth hockey in the Roanoke, Salem area. What is it like? How competitive is it? I know you played for the Roanoke, basically juniors teams, right? 16 under, 18 under. So tell me a little bit about what youth hockey is like down in that area.
Yeah. So this is actually one of my favorite stories to tell people when we're talking about hockey in Roanoke. Mm-hmm. So I was born in 2003, which is, I believe, the year that the last ECHL team left Roanoke, a year or two within that picture. So hockey was very on the downfall, to be completely honest with you. I believe when I started in 2000, whatever we are, 5 or 6, 2006,
Yeah.
When I started playing hockey, I believe that there was less than 20 people in the entire what's called Valley Youth Hockey. There's 20 people in the entire program, and that's from ages 3 to 18. So there really wasn't teams. There wasn't like hockey teams. It was more so just like, oh, you're getting ice time. You're going to learn how to skate. And then really my age group was the first one that started to be really big when we were young. And then the age group ahead of me ended up getting a few people too. But I've really seen it all, like I said, from 20 people in the entire organization. And now, 4 years after I've left, they're getting, I think every single age group has, except U18, I think has like 2 or 3 teams. They're being very competitive, winning league championships. And they're playing a great league. It's called the EJEPL, which is literally from Florida to Maine. And I was lucky enough to play in that my last 2 years. And I think that's something that the younger kids, especially like the guys who have been playing, or the guys who will play in that from when they're 10 years old to further, I think that's something that really special that they've had. And I've had teammates who I played with my entire life have great success. I've got 3 teammates who all play ACHA 1 right now, one who played in NAL for a little bit, one who plays NCAA D3 at Keene State, and now we're seeing kids leave from Roanoke to go play for very competitive junior teams, whether it's USPHL Premier teams or if they're playing U18 AAA, and guys are having a lot of success. And I think the newer guys, that's a lot of thanks to what the Dogs have done. With their management, with their ownership, and especially with their coaches.
Well, and that's probably the key to the story, right? You go back 22 years, you're born, there's not a lot of players playing in the youth, the youth leagues or the youth teams in Roanoke. We go 22 years later, and you're telling me that that's changed. I've said multiple times, you put a successful team, you put successful coaches in a minor league hockey city with the team, and you get some success out of it, you will start growing the sport even more. And Binghamton is now 52 years into having hockey, professional hockey, since the Dusters came in back in 73, 74. And let's be honest, it's still continuing to grow, the Binghamton Hawks and all the different youth teams. I have to imagine that the big key to the youth hockey growing is how successful Roanoke can be, not just on the ice, but within the organization as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Being part of this Roanoke organization, since literally it's the second ever game, well, even before that, but the second other game, I was lucky enough to be a locker room stick boy when I was, however old I was, 12 or 13, and then moving on up to being able to be behind the bench with them as well as Binghamton now. I really have seen it grow. I want to say in that first year, I remember there was games, we were worried about breaking even, which I want to say is 2,800. I don't obviously know the exact number.
Sure.
And this year they broke another record of just attendance and selling out twice with I want to say over 8,000 people, which is really cool to see, and something that I've seen built up from the beginning, and something honestly when I was a kid I never thought I'd be able to see, which was professional hockey in Roanoke.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Roanoke's not the biggest city in the country, right? We're not talking about a large area. I think even Binghamton just actually is a bigger city overall, or the greater Binghamton area with Vestal and all the different little cities around it is probably a little bit bigger than Roanoke in a whole. But that just says a lot about the city, the community, and everything there. So why go play and why go to Elon University instead of maybe being at Roanoke University or around Roanoke? What was your decision to go to Elon?
It's really interesting, right? Near Roanoke, we've got some great colleges. We've got Roanoke, which is a 3-minute walk from my house. We've got Virginia Tech, which is a 30-minute drive.
Sure.
UVA is 2.5 hours, and I was surrounded by those schools growing up. Like I said, my dad went to Roanoke College, and that was basically in my backyard. I grew up, going to all the Roanoke College basketball and lacrosse games, and loved Roanoke College. Same with football, going to all the Virginia Tech football games. And I kind of just wanted something a little different. I really had no idea what I wanted. I felt like, I kind of had lived the big college experience, going to Virginia Tech games my entire life, and also like kind of the smaller college experience at Roanoke and being surrounded by that. So I wanted something like a little bit in the middle. I looked at a lot of different places, especially here at Elon, Wake Forest, Richmond, and I really just settled at Elon. It's funny, a lot of people, when they, especially at Elon, they say, oh, I saw campus and I fell in love with it. I didn't necessarily feel that way, but like I took plenty of college tours, and finally I was just sitting at home one day and I was like, I think this is really where I want to go. I absolutely love the campus. It's a beautiful campus, great history here as well, but also just the professors and the overall just like community is excellent. I mean, you can go around and I'll see professors that I haven't had since my freshman year, and they'll check in with me and say hello. It really just made it feel like a community. And then on top of that, coming in my freshman year, Elon had a pretty competitive club team with a new coach who went on to do his own great things and his coaching juniors. And so I came into that my freshman year, and that was my first taste, like my first ever day of school. I had a hockey practice, and so I've been doing that for 4 years now, and it was really all I knew. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
What did you learn about yourself kind of like leaving the Roanoke area, going to Elon, and, everything that you've done the last 4 years with that team, from president, captain, all of those things? What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah. I learned that, at the beginning I definitely didn't love being out of my comfort zone, and I've changed there a lot. But I also learned that I like to lead people, and I like to leave the world or leave each situation better than I came into it as.
Sure.
And so, whether that's, like you mentioned, being, I guess, president for 2 years and vice president for one, I've hired multiple coaches, was recruiting a lot of players at the time for Elon, but I just like to be involved. I like to talk to people. I like to people be happy and have fun because of myself, which I felt like I was able to do as, being higher up on that team.
I have to imagine that. When did you meet Dan Bremner?
I met Dan Bremner the day that he was hired by the Rail Yard Dawgs.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me about that, because I'm going to guess that your connection with Binghamton came from your connection with Dan, because obviously Coach Sherwood, obviously was in Roanoke, and there's that kind of relationship. Probably, it's kind of like when we look at the NFL, right? Like how many coaches coached under Coach Belichick, right?
Yeah.
And it just gets spread all. It's like all of a sudden you're watching a game and it's like, wait, that guy was under, really? Oh my God. It's like, how many more guys is like that? But really what it comes down to is like, Sherwood coached for him, and you're connected to, Bremner, and there's probably other guys that have done that as well. Talk to me about that first day when he comes in and you start building that relationship that has impacted and helped you today.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I was like the locker room attendant stick boy with a few of my other buddies. And he totally changed the culture the day that he came into Roanoke. That first year and a half, to be frank, we weren't winners. All you have to do there is look at the standings, and so I think that we were in last place at the end of our first year, and,
sure,
and very bottom of Christmas of our second year, which is when Dan came in. And he totally changed the culture. I mean, you could tell stuff was different the day he got in there. I mean, I think within 3 weeks of him being hired, we went on a 10-game win streak. And you could just tell, like, he knew hockey. I mean, he played in the league. He played in the SP for 5 years, played Division I, played Division III. But he's just a smart hockey man. And he also, just like we were talking about earlier before we began recording, I mean, how Binghamton has that family culture. I think that he really builds that family culture as well. And him and I really got close during COVID because the Dogs didn't have a season that year. And I was in my 18U year in Roanoke, and he asked my dad, who was our coach, he was like, hey, do you mind if me and another player get involved? Like, we want to be around the game, et cetera. And so my dad kind of was like, yeah, of course. I mean, who doesn't want to have a professional coach be their coach? And we kind of let him, take the reins, and he was essentially my head coach my senior year of high school. And that's really where we developed a good friendship. And then same thing, I came back my freshman year and sophomore year, and I'd always check in with him. I'd always be around the team when I was in town for, breaks, Christmas, fall break, all that time. I love him, and I love, being around that group of guys that we've had down there for a while. Guys like Stubbsy, who was in Roanoke for a long time, and kind of fostering a relationship with them. And then last year, I ended up, just when I came home from Christmas break, I was still playing, and I was just like, hey, do you mind if I, hop on with you guys? I'd like to skate. So, I hopped on sometimes in full gear and sometimes not, and eventually one day he was just like, hey, if this is something you really want to do and you enjoy coaching, I'd love to, have you behind the bench. You can see what it's like. And honestly, that changed my life, and it's honestly where I feel the happiest and where I feel comfortable. And, Brant and the rest of the Black Bears have also made me feel the exact same way.
So what was that like, that first time that you got to be behind the bench? And, I want to ask Josh Fletcher this because, I love Fletch, and Fletch is great. He's been on the show a couple times, but it's just like, do you say anything? It's like, you're not like the head coach, right? It's like, do you go down to Poirier and go, hey, you missed a spot there, right? Or just, I don't know. It's like one of those things. So what was it like being on the bench for that first time?
Yeah. I think in Roanoke it was a little different. Because, as I mentioned, I grew up around those guys, and by no means am I any comparison of hockey player to those guys.
Sure.
They're professionals for a reason. They played Division III, Division I, the highest levels of juniors.
Yeah.
But I think that in Roanoke they understood, I'd been around hockey my entire life. I have a pretty good hockey mind.
Yeah.
But still, that first game, kind of let Brems and Nick DeVito, who's the assistant coach, kind of let them do their thing, pick up where I can.
And you could just watch, right? You could just really kind of soak it in.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was in front of I want to say it was a pretty packed crowd in Roanoke, and, being my hometown. But we also won in a shootout or overtime that game, which was pretty awesome. And actually, until this year, I want to say I went 13-0 behind the bench and finally lost one game this year.
But that was a Binghamton game?
No, that was my second one. That was my second loss.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That barn burner down here in Virginia.
The barn burner. Yeah, the loss in Virginia. There's going to be stories about that stupid game for a long time, and then probably the game afterwards. But let's talk a little bit about, obviously, then the relationship that obviously started to happen. How did you get in contact with Schurzy? Did Schurzy contact you? Was this a Dan Brenner thing?
No. So Schurzy and I have been pretty close for a while. Obviously, me working in the Dogs locker room as a kid, but he also fostered a good relationship with my dad, and he really was, probably I tried not to get, my dad always warned me, Brems always warned me, don't get too close to these players because you never know when they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
But Brant and I, he really was my older brother. And there's times, he maybe have been hurt or might have been a healthy scratch, and he'd text me. He'd be like, hey, I need to get some extra work in. He'd pick me up at 5:30 in the mornings, and we'd go skate together just to get our legs moving. And most of those times when he was coming back from a few injuries that he had. But, he really was like an older brother for me then. And I think this summer we were just talking, texting, catching up. And he was just like, hey, I've seen what you've been doing in Roanoke. Would you be interested in doing the same thing here? Obviously, it's a little different because, at home I'm 8 hours away, at school I'm 10 hours away.
Sure.
But I kind of gave him the rundown of what I've done for Brems and Roanoke in terms of video and business analytics major, so using my analytical skills, especially in Excel and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And, kind of helping him out there. And we kind of hit it off immediately. Well, not hit it off because we'd already, been pretty close. So we kind of developed an agreement, and he told me what he expected, and we've been off since then.
So let's talk a little bit about video. How important is video? For the fans that has never sat in a video session before, obviously you probably have multiple times. What does video do for the player and for the coaches? Yeah,
I think it depends on the coaches, and especially with the two that I've worked with. Mm-hmm. They approach it very differently. I'd say, I'll start with Brems just because that's kind of where I was raised in video, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
But his video sessions are very intense. And and more so nitpicky, I would say, than Woody's are, and that's not a bad thing or a good thing. Obviously, I think it's they've both found obviously great success in the last few years. And Woody, I'd say more so does it as like an overall, just like here, like more of a viewing thing, just to learn. Where Brems is trying to like hammer home, whether that's systems or aspects or small plays that can make his players successful. But it's pretty fun. I love video, and as a coach, you obviously can't catch everything, especially those smaller things that I mentioned. So being able to go back and watch that, I think that you can learn a lot from it as a coach. You can learn a lot from it as a player, and honestly, even as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best way that you can learn more about hockey from if you're brand new and have never watched a game to if you're an NHL coach is continuing to watch more hockey. And so that's something that I've found that I love doing.
Jersey has talked to me multiple times about the difference between the SP and the Fed. So obviously, Jersey played for Brems, and obviously some of that has to rub off a little bit. But I would have to imagine that Roanoke and Binghamton still play somewhat a different game because the leagues supposedly, one is more of a grinding league, and in I guess up until more recently, the Fed has been just really kind of more open. If you can bypass a player without hitting him, they do. But I do think it's gotten a little bit more physical. Port Huron plays a very physical game. Danbury tries to play a physical game at times. And I think Binghamton relies on their skill, and their skill is skating. Their skill is shooting the puck. I would have to imagine. I haven't looked at Athens numbers to know specifically whether or not they've outshot the Binghamton Black Bears. But the Black Bears shoot the puck a lot. What are the differences that you've seen between Roanoke and Binghamton?
Yeah, it's a good question, really. I think it starts with their styles of play. I'd say, Roanoke, while we have our great skill guys down there, Nick Ford, Joe Widmar, Mac Jansen, guys who've been multiple-time All-Stars in that league. We also, I think that we pride ourselves there on being a tight team that's tough to play against. That's how Brems was as a player. If you look at his stats, he wasn't going to score a lot of goals. And he would tell you that. He made his name in the SP, being a guy who would never let someone skate by without hitting them, blocking shots, just getting in fights. I think that's the kind of team that he wants to have. Obviously, you have to have those top end skill guys.
Sure.
But even from the top end down to rookies who have just come in from college, that's something that he preaches. And like you said, up in Bingo, that's an unbelievably skilled team, right?
Yeah.
Kirks, Stubbsy. Those are guys who could, from top to bottom. Those guys, they've got skill. They could all, for the most part, be SPHL players, if not even more than that. While they do definitely rely on their skill a lot, being in that locker room, that's a physical bunch. That's a bunch that likes to hit guys, led there by Kirk's big physical body.
Mm-hmm.
And, down to, I love Fletch's game. Fletch is one of my favorite players to watch. He's a physical mammoth. And I'm excited to see him back, man. That guy's, I love his game.
Do the two leagues differ in forechecking styles as well? Is there less forechecking in the Fed than there is in the SP?
So that's an interesting question. I'm going to take it as a whole. I wouldn't say there's less forechecking necessarily, but as a whole, I think you'll see SP players stick a lot tighter to their systems.
Okay.
Whether that's the forecheck, the breakout, the power play. Where I'd say the Fed, I'm not, obviously it goes from team to team, where, maybe coaches don't preach that as much, or, obviously Brand preaches that, it's something that I like that he does. But, sometimes you got to have fun when you're playing hockey and show your creativity, and I think that's something that I honestly do see a lot more in the Fed than in the SP.
Okay, so before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about your upcoming new venture, which is going to be the club team at Elmira College. Okay, who called who and said, hey, we want you to be the guy to help us start this brand new program? Because it is going to be a brand new program. And as you and I were talking a little bit off the air, Elmira has kind of turned away from being that professional hockey town to more of the developmental area hockey town with, obviously the men's and women's Elmira College D3 teams, the club team that you're starting, the 3 levels of junior hockey that they're starting to put together. But how did you get connected with Elmira College?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting story, actually. This summer I was a sales intern for a minor league baseball team, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I just wanted to work in baseball. Whatever, like I'll live, or not even baseball. I wanted to just, work in the front office of a sports team. And
sure.
As much as I love that organization, I love my coworkers. I didn't like not making a difference on the ice, on the field, on
sure.
whatever playing surface that is. And so when I started, I accepted the job with Brant here, and Dan and I kind of re-upped and said we were going to do our thing again. I was immediately like, well, this is what I found that I love, like I told you earlier, and how can I continue to do this? So obviously, looked at multiple options. But what I found was I wanted to continue my college and my education and get a master's degree. So I'm going to be doing that at actually BU, a hybrid for their business MBA, at the same time that I'm living and working in Elmira. But in terms of Elmira, I sent a lot of emails to different colleges who I had connections to, all the way from Division III club to even a few Division I NCAA teams. And Coach Saul at Elmira immediately emailed me back and was like, I've got something happening that I really want you to be a part of. He knew me because Roanoke's captain Nick Ford went to Elmira, and then his assistant coach Mike Grace played in the SPHL for many years and was actually a teammate of Woody, I want to say in Mississippi. And so those two, immediately I made those connections, and we hopped on a call. They kind of told me, this is something that we've had the idea to do, and we kind of just got the nod from the school and from the athletic department. So, yeah, like you mentioned, this is going to be Elmira College's first year as a club team. We're going to play in the UNY CHL, which is just a club league for a lot of the New York schools, small New York schools.
Right.
So we're very excited about that. And then I'll also be able to, or I'm also lucky enough to, be involved with the Division III team, which has produced a lot of great players. But I'm excited about Elmira, man. I mean, it's a hockey school. It's a hockey town. Their women's team was just in the Elite Eight, I want to say, for the Division III women. Their men,
which is great,
finally lost to Hobart in their conference playoffs, who actually just won NCAA D3. So it's two really good teams already at that school, and I hope to add to that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Again, they used to be considered a professional hockey town, and that's kind of just changed, which is you're looking for an identity. And when you're, 35, 45 minutes from Binghamton, New York, and the identity there is that's the pro team, in the Southern Tier, this is a good way for Elmira to kind of, re-stick themselves into the hockey world and say, hey, we're going to develop and produce pro hockey players. Yeah.
Just looking at a list of pro hockey players that they've had, I mean, they've had guys from the coast down to the Fed pretty much every year. I mean, I think there's 4 or 5 guys who are in the SP right now who are Elmira alums.
Yep.
And, I mean, I think they just do everything the right way, from the administration who I've been in contact with now due to my job, down to the players who I've been in contact with. I think from top to bottom that they're a great, program, great university, and I'm super excited to have an opportunity with them.
All right, before I let you go, Binghamton is tomorrow, I know, is flying down to Athens, Georgia to play the Rock Lobsters. Mm-hmm. The Rock Lobsters, when I started kind of looking through their roster, they got a bunch of ECHL guys, ton of guys who've got SP experience. I'm not sure if you cut any video or looked at any video of Athens, but tell the fans why you think Binghamton's got a great chance at still beating the Athens Rock Lobsters.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we always say in the locker room, but we're the best team in the league, and I think that, not to be cocky, but to be confident.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a group, they continue to get better. Obviously, I was up in Binghamton during December, and that was my first time with them for that 2-2 set. I can't remember who it was against. But then, my second time being with them was down here in Wiffle just a few weeks ago, and obviously it's months and months difference, but, I mean, you can see how much better they are getting. And obviously, like I mentioned before, we had those top end guys, Kirkby, Stubbsy, Bond. But you see guys like Motter or Weaves, guys who kind of found their role, and that's really what I think has been impressing from me. And I think that's why we're going to beat them. I think that while we're more skilled, I'd say. They have top end skill too. Garrett Milan, unbelievable player.
Yep.
But I really think that this is a team who wants to win. People can say this game, whatever, it doesn't matter. We've clinched X, Y, Z. But I mean, I think that in Binghamton, you see a team that wants to win. You see a team that's hungry. And I think that's my favorite part about being around them. They're never satisfied.
Which is crazy because they won the championship last year, and they're still as hungry this year as they were last year. It blows my mind away. Not to go through the whole Shoresy thing, but maybe they do hate to lose, and more so than love to win. I don't know. That's such a
I can completely agree with you. I mean, that team, they hate losing. I mean, obviously, I've been in the games I've been with them. We're 4-1, but that one loss, I mean, it was shocking. How much those guys hated to lose. And
Mason,
that was something that really rubbed off on me.
I'll be honest with you. I don't talk to Shoresy yet. I don't text him. Like if they lose, I mean, of course it's only happened 6 times this year, right? But when they lose, it's like Shoresy's not getting a text from Bob going, hey, can I get a quote about this? Nope. I leave him alone because I can only imagine the kind of stuff that I might get from him. It might be actually better. I don't know. I should
get more clicks.
I could probably get more clicks if Shoresy goes off in a quote. Good luck. Congratulations and good luck. You've done a lot for yourself, and that's pretty awesome. I look forward to kind of watching your kind of career go, especially next year. If Binghamton wins the championship this year, what's that going to kind of mean to you that you had a part in that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's really special, and something that I was told about from the moment I signed, or I don't want to say signed, that I accepted this position was, hey man, like what he told me, that you're part of our family now. From Andreas, who's been nothing but welcoming to me, to Woody, and then even Dylan. Dylan and I have a really special relationship that we've formed. And then even down to the players, Macker, Motter, Bond, just some unbelievable guys and characters that we have on that team. And to be able to say, even if I did a little bit to help these guys, continue to live their dream and to have success, as well as the team, the organization, Binghamton, and the city as a whole, I mean, that's something that you just dream of.
Awesome. Mason, thank you so much for coming on. I definitely appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Bob.
Awesome. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. That was Mason Esworthy, and want to thank Mason for coming on the show. Again, 2 games against the Athens Rock Lobsters. This has not been an April Fool's joke. I haven't done any one of those. I haven't done an April Fool's joke in a long time. I don't even know if I would know how to do one of those. So I thank you, everybody, for listening and engaging with us. I'm really excited about the future of the Power Play Post Show and what we could truly build here and make it really great for everyone. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and Binghamton Black Bears intern, assistant coach, and head coach of the hockey club ice hockey team at Elmira College, Mason Esworthy. I am Bob Howard. We'll talk to you after the Athens Rock Lobsters 2 games, probably sometime on Thursday or Friday. And thank you very much for listening. And this is the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.